What's up, baddies? Welcome to the Chatty Baddies podcast, where no topic's off limits. We're bringing you the tea on relationships, sports, motherhood, mental health, pop culture chaos, and everything in between. Whether you're navigating life after a heartbreak, crushing your wellness goals, or just here for the juicy celeb mess, we've got you. So grab your coffee or a harder drink, pop in those headphones, and get ready for some real talk. This is Chatty Baddies. What's up, baddies? Welcome to the show. I'm Nikki.
I'm Whitney.
I'm Nicole.
And we are the Chatty Baddies. And today we have an absolutely incredible guest, Colin Congo. He's worn more hats than most of us could imagine. A former FBI HRT pilot for the General Pop, that's Hostage Rescue Team, very sexy, Special Agent SWAT Team Operator, Federal Air Marshal, and PNBA Natural Mr. Olympia. Colin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm really, excited to have a good conversation with you ladies tonight.
Well, before we get into your ever so impressive resume, I just need to address the pink elephant in the room. You know, when you submit a resume with the first name Colin, middle name Ernest, do you think most employers assume you're white? I'm just kidding.
I mean, probably.
He's like, that's why I've gotten these interviews. I'm kidding.
I'm not mad about it. Whatever's getting me in the door.
Use it. Wait, first of all, Federal Air Marshal. I mean, how many miles you got on you?
Wow. Actually, it's interesting. So right before, I made a transition out of the government, a little under a year ago, I met a guy whose brother worked at the FAM service, and he was we called him SFAM, so like the supervisory Federal Air Marshal. So he he had some program, and he was able to pull up in the program my old information, and it had a log of every single flight that I've ever flown. Wow. And it mapped it out. It actually put it on a map. It had mapping software, and it showed every country that I'd ever traveled to, every mile that I had ever had, and it was pretty cool. It was several million miles that I flew in over in just under 5 years. So it was really kind of a cool graphic to see, because I didn't realize I'd been that far. That's sad. You can't get frequent flyer. It's a conflict of interest, right? So I'm going to highlight. So Federal Air Marshal, we'll talk about that. SWAT operator. Operated in multiple roles to include special agent assigned to the Special Ops Group, Transnational Organized Crime Squad, Violent Crimes and Safe Streets Gang Task Force. That sounds like you should have a face tattoo. Let's see what else. FBI planned, coordinated, and implemented all protective and logistical aspects of foot movements, motorcade movements, and off-the-record movements. And command post operative domestically and internationally. And then finally, fast forwarding to the Supervisory Special Agent Tactical ISR Program Manager. And I love this. ISR, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. I love that word. As a direct support element to the FBI's Hostage Rescue Team, deployments average approximately 40 times per year, and led development of FBI's Tactical ISR program, leading to becoming the recipient of the FBI Assistant Director's Award for Excellence. We're going to get into that, Nicole. I know you have some questions on that.
It's insanity.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's more than I can do in my whole life.
I can barely pronounce those words, and he's like, it's on my resume.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on here? Well, I know Nikki just gave some background on your Federal Air Marshal and you as an FBI pilot. How do you view recent concerns about the airline safeties that we have going on right now?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of an interesting time. It's just, you guys know as well as I do that we go through kind of different phases in, kind of popular media, if you will, where different things are highlighted. I feel like for whatever reason, aviation's under scrutiny right now. I've talked to Nikki about this in the past, because we know about how she feels about flying.
I'm right there.
Listen, Nicole, you're talking to Nicole. She's my twin when it comes to that. We don't want to go. How do we get out of this?
Can we drive?
Yeah, so we've had some conversations about that, but it's like, I mean, I'm not citing anything that you don't already know, but aviation, I mean, especially in the United States, the FAA's track record for aviation safety is absolutely unmatched. I mean, you genuinely can't go from your house to the grocery store more safely than you can hopping on a 737 going from Newark to Los Angeles. It is far safer to go fly across country on a in a titanium or aluminum tube, going at 600 miles an hour than it is to hop in your steel vehicle and drive 4 miles to the grocery store. I mean, that's just a fact. And
Yeah.
so we're just in this unique time where like a lot of things are being, I think, maybe more highlighted than they have been in the past, or more than they have been in other times. And I don't really have a good answer for why that is. But it does seem like there are more incidents and accidents than usual. But I would submit to you that the statistically speaking, I don't think that it's any less safe now than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
The media is just blowing it up more now.
Exactly right.
Yes, we have more media. Well, and then in that regard, do you feel like people are more worried due to the mechanical issues, or do you think human error, still plays the biggest role in the aviation flights?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I mean, maybe something that is not as popularized, if you will, is that and we see this because in the aviation circles, and when we do different ratings and get new licenses, and we study safety and other incidents and accidents that have taken place, and figure out, okay, what can we learn from this? Like, how can we get better to prevent this from happening again? And what we learn almost every single time is that 9 in 10, like over 90% of aircraft accidents and incidents are pilot error. I mean, that's we don't want to hear that. That's a fact. That's the fact of the matter, though, is that it comes down to a human performance issue, something that the pilot didn't recognize, something that the pilot did wrong, something that the pilot wasn't trained well for. Like far less often is it a mechanical issue or a maintenance issue, or even like a weather issue. It's typically related to an error that the pilot makes. And I mean, like, just kind of frankly speaking, I mean, I hope that this doesn't put pilots out of jobs, but if we think about what's going to happen in the future, I mean, are computers more reliable than us? Maybe, I don't know. So anyway,
Like with AI and robots, and you think with the cars, like if cars are driving themselves, you think pilots are
just
planes
like,
are going to
I mean, AI, right? Like AI is doing everything now, right? So I mean, there's already lots of conversations about going down to a single pilot flight deck. So right now, when you hop on a Southwest flight, or a Delta flight or whatever, there's two pilots there. But what they're talking about doing is, like, in the near future, when I say near, I mean by the time we'd see this, probably, like, realistically speaking, I'd say 10 years. But you look up to the flight deck and you see one person there. And then on the ground, for let's say 10 airplanes, there's one person on the ground that is like acting as the co-pilot for all 10 of those airplanes, if that makes sense.
So speaking of your flying experience and government stuff, I'm curious, what was harder, piloting high-stake FBI missions or handling like the unpredictability of federal air marshal work on passenger flights? Did those like ever overlap each other?
Yeah, no, not really. So kind of what happened was, to kind of string the story together, when I went and ended up flying for Delta Connection back in when I graduated college. I got furloughed. So Delta Northwest merged, and like they raised the mandatory retirement age, and a bunch of stuff happened at the same time. And I got what's called furloughed. And in the airlines, when that happens, it basically it's not like a layoff per se. It's like a temporary, like, hey, we don't need you right now, but we'll call you back when we do, type of thing. So I got furloughed, and then and I was kind of looking for something to do. I wanted to keep flying. That didn't work out, and I went to a job fair. I found Homeland Security and Department and the Federal Air Marshal Service, and I decided to go do that. Well, what that did was it took me from being on the front side of the flight deck door, if you will, to sitting behind the flight deck door, right? And so what made me excited about that was like, hey, I still get to like travel the world and like on the government dime, but I also get to kind of scratch this itch of like being a gun carrying, like kind of covert federal agent, like type of thing. And so that's kind of how that came together for me. And I was like really excited to be able to do it. So anyways, yes, I mean, they're very different things. Although, we get on an airplane, I would be carrying, a firearm, and I'd go up and check in with the flight deck. Hey, just so you know, I'm on the airplane, and hey, by the way, if you need some help, I'm here. I would do that kind of thing. And it's kind of tongue in cheek, kind of joking with the guys, but they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of how I would say, yeah, there wasn't a lot of overlap between actually flying and being an air marshal now.
So you've been on SWAT operations, tactical ISR missions, and protective details for embassies and dignitaries. I want you to walk us through your most intense moment that you've experienced. And I kind of want to know how you were able to stay calm under that kind of pressure.
Wow. So I would say, my time in the field SWAT program was probably the time that we had the most like actual like risk and danger, right? I mean, that was a time that for several years, when I got to be a part of that team in Vegas, which is where I was assigned to that team, where we were literally charged with going to someone's house who had committed a crime, probably had no idea that we were coming, and then at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m., you know, banging on their door, throwing flashbangs, breaking their door down and trying to take them to jail. Right.
And that adrenaline.
It's like a movie. I mean,
I don't even like waking up to pee in the middle of the night. That sounds like it would be
like there's nothing that really compares to that, right? When you have like somebody that's been online like saying, I'm not going back to prison. I am not, I'm going
They have
down
nothing to lose.
like the hard way. All these things, right? These gangbangers have been there, done that, right? Some of them were taken to jail for murder, right? And then go into their house and be like, hey, guess what? You're going back, all that stuff, So that's, I mean, there's a lot of risk there, right? And I mean, I wouldn't say it was necessarily any more risky than, there's police departments that do this literally every single day, all across the country. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of risk. The additional, I think, what I would add to that would be that, doing it from the federal side, when you're federal agents, is that when you start throwing around the three letters, I think the stakes feel a little higher for the for the person that's inside the house.
Right.
And so maybe that one of two things: either one, they get more excited, like now I'm going to fight back even harder, or ideally, it really takes the fight out of them, right? So I mean, so it could go either way.
So when you look back at, your FBI time and when you were doing the aviation world as well, what do you think was more important, the mental versus the physical aspect? And did your fitness give you a little bit of an edge during those high stress environments like you were just speaking of?
Wow, I've never thought about that. That's a really good question. I would say that being physically prepared gave me kind of a mental preparation edge, right? So me knowing that I was going to have very limited physical barrier, whether that be needing to chase somebody down, whether that meant like needing to sit on a really long barricaded subject, all those different things that we did that were physically demanding, they helped me to be more mentally sharp and feel more mentally confident in knowing like, hey, my physical capacity is not going to let me down. Right. And so like me being physically prepared is just going to help me stay locked in for longer. Right. Whereas if I weren't as physically prepared, I think I need to be mentally sharp, which is, I think, paramount in really law enforcement, kind of in the law enforcement world is like, but if you're not physically prepared and you can be like, hey, I'm going to talk this guy down. I'm going to be super sharp, but the guy starts running, like it's over, right? Like I'm done, right? Like, so, you have to, I would say you have to have the physical really helped me bolster my mental aptitude.
The training that you all talked about, like FAMs are highly, highly skilled and trained in terms of their shot. But we talked about on a local level, police officers are not trained. So there a lot of them get that cortisol spike and they you've heard of stories of them shooting themselves or
Yeah.
the wrong person, and their margin of error, like your margin of error as a fam, was what, millimeters? And you
Yeah.
have no room for error in that tiny capsule catapulting across the United
Right.
States. So you have to be like on point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
No, you're 100% right, and that's I talk about that with folks all the time. I'm like, that's was kind of I mean, that's something that we really wore as a badge of honor, knowing that at the time, at least, I'm not sure if this is still the case, but the Federal Air Marshal Service had the highest like marksmanship standards in federal law enforcement, because, like you said, I mean, like an inch or two to the left or right, on a moving vessel, right, and you could really have a bad day, right?
Yeah,
Um, so that's not to say that every single person at the Air Marshal Service is up, can shoot through a quarter, 100 yards away. That's not what we're saying. But the standards were high, and then and kind of to speak to that a little bit further, is exactly what you were getting at. Is that local law enforcement in a lot of cases, and I met a lot of local law enforcement all across the country, and some of them, come from smaller police departments that had much smaller budgets. And you hear these guys talking about like, hey, I had to go practice like with my own ammo, like I had to, my own box of
that's
ammo, like
expensive.
That is
$20 or
expensive.
$25 or whatever. Like, hey, I. I never shot unless I was qualifying, right? Whereas, the time that I spent in federal law enforcement, I mean, you take a case of ammo home and practice, right? Like, like go get that practice in. And again, it's the locals, those folks that are pulling up on somebody for that failed to signal, right? And they're just pulling up and they're like, oh gosh, here we go again, got to give this guy a ticket for failing to signal or running the stop sign. They pull up on him and they get shot at, right? Like, and it's like, and they have to turn it on like that, boom. They go from like having sat in their car all day and just basically doing nothing to like now they're dodging bullets and trying to put an accurate shot on somebody, right? So man, it's like those, true commendations to those folks who put on that vest every day and go sit in a squad car and don't know what it's going to look like the next time that they pull somebody over.
Scary.
I'm just curious, how intense is your training for this?
Yeah, very. And
How long was it? What, like, can you kind of walk us through like what you had to do?
Yeah, so I'll start at the beginning. So I'll talk a little bit about the Air Marshal Service, and then I'll kind of walk forward. So the Air Marshal Service, we did a baseline law enforcement training, and it was just perfect for people like me who had no law enforcement experience, who had no firearms experience, like period. So the very first time I held a firearm was when I got to the Federal Air Marshal. Sorry, what's called FLETC, so Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and that's just like basic, like let's call it the police academy, right?
Yeah.
And I pulled up, and it's interesting because I write with my left hand, I kick with my left foot, I eat with my left hand, and I got there and they said the gun goes in your right hand, and they put it in my right hand, and I shoot right-handed because of that. Because I had no foundation and I had no basis for it. So the gun goes in my right hand and I lean over it a little bit because I'm left eye dominant, because I'm left-handed. And so that's just it takes somebody that has no experience, and then 11 weeks later you leave there and you are a federal law enforcement agent, baseline federal law enforcement agent. Then they send you for another 11 or 12 weeks or so to Atlantic City, New Jersey, and so then you have in total you end up having like around 22 weeks, I think, of training, and then you're off and you're flying on airplanes and you're carrying a firearm and you're a federal agent, 1801. So that was how long my training was for the for Federal Air Marshal Service, and it was, I mean, it's very high quality training. You're doing academics, learning about like the law, enforcing the law, all the way up to including like martial arts and tons of firearms training and physical fitness stuff and a bunch of stuff like that. So that's what happened there, and then I moved on, and once I got to the FBI, Quantico is about 20 or so weeks, 19 or 20 weeks long, and it's in Quantico, Virginia, and it's interesting because it's very academically challenging. At least it was for me. And I say it like that because like if any of my friends hear this, they probably, or any of my academy mates hear this, they're probably like, what? It was like academically challenging, right? Like, for many people, it'd be a lot more physically challenging because there is,
Right.
you have those physical tests, like a standard to get in, and then at like, the 3/4 of the way through, you have to do another physical test. And if you don't pass that, then you go home, right? And something I'll add, just because in a quick aside, I'll add is that at least at the time, the average age of an FBI agent hired was 33 years old. So, the reason for that is that most people that the FBI very highly values folks that come with like a diverse background, a lot of experience in something else other than being an FBI agent, right? And it really helps because the FBI investigates all types of crime, whether it's white collar, like mail fraud and like healthcare fraud and those things, all
That's
the way
not
up to
sexy.
including
That stuff's
gangs,
not
violent crimes, like all that stuff, right? And so it's great that we had some accountants. It's also great that we had like people in my class that were lawyers, right? That can really articulate and break down the law. I had a rocket scientist in my class. I had a nurse in my class.
Actually, it's a real thing. I thought that was a joke.
Right.
It's real.
I had a Navy SEAL in my class. That they love that diverse background. So, anyways, all that to say that it was academically challenging for me, but that entire experience was about 20 weeks or so. And again, I mean, just like you would imagine, people from all law enforcement agencies across the world come to learn from Quantico about how to teach people how to be, special agents. That's just, I mean, it's the training is second to none. So that was great.
Colin, you've seriously, with everything you've shared with us today, and just knowing you over the last how long have we known each other? Like,
gosh,
2
at
decades?
least
Or a decade?
man, probably close to 15 years, I would say. Yeah,
You've lived that career that honestly most people only see in movies, and you've flying jets, SWAT ops, Air Marshal missions. The people listening, what is a lesson you can leave our people with that, like, what do you think the average person could apply in their own life on a day-to-day basis, whether it's at work or at home, whatever?
yeah. So I would say, man, just like you can do any of these things that like your imagination is the only limitation that you have. Right. If you want to, I mean, any of these things that you want to do, you can do. In fact, like the last assignment that I had with the Bureau, like it sort of existed before I got there. It was kind of in its infancy, but I sort of, in a sense, got to be a small business owner and watch that grow and build that, myself. And there's all types of places like that in every experience. Every professional endeavor that you do is like you get there, you do a good job, and then you let your creativity show and your personality show and help create something and leave it better than you got there, right?
The Chatty Baddies, we really appreciate your time sharing your incredible experiences with us today. And it's rare to hear from someone who's lived through such extraordinary missions in the air, on the ground, even on stage, as a natural bodybuilding champ.
Thank you.
We appreciate your service and your insights. And to our listeners, remember, whether you're facing turbulence in the skies or in everyday life, sounds like Colin has said, discipline and training and that mindset can make all the difference. So thank you all for tuning in. Until then, be chatty.
Stay batty.
See ya. Bye.